Although today appearing to be out of place and hidden by modern features, Fannie Bay Gaol once played a major role in housing and punishing hundreds of incarcerated inmates who were trapped behind the beige walls surrounded by bush and outback. Today, it is a historical museum aimed to expose a rich history here in Darwin. Located on East Point Road, it was officially named Her Majesty's Jail and Labour Prison. The jail served for a little less than 100 years, opening on the 20th September 1883 until the 1st September 1979, where the prisoners were relocated to correctional facility in Berrimah. In the 1920s, females and males were finally separated, with women being held in a newly built block containing a garden. Where in the 1950s, a new native section was constructed that commenced the segregation of Aboriginal inmates from the rest of the prison population, with a block for juveniles and children later being constructed that was repurposed for housing refugees. Do you ever feel there was ever cultural or gender bias within the jail? If so, how?
Okay, so basically most inmates were men. Okay, that was very much, and in races, lots of Aboriginal people and lots of Chinese people. There is a bias because we do hear about with jurists, juries here in Darwin. It's a very small place, and there was a lot of crime, especially white crime against Aboriginal people. Jurists would not convict. They would just, no, he's not guilty. So people that actually did very bad things did not go to jail when they should have. That changed over time, but that took a long time.
From your knowledge, what was the general routine of the inmates?
Very early on in the 1880s, it was an extremely harsh place to be. And I don't think it was ever a place you wanted to be. No one wanted to be there. But there's all different things that would happen there. So one of the things, if you were sentenced to hard labour, you actually got to break rock. And that was then used for road building, but you broke it with hammers, so it was actually physically hard labour. Basically, you would wake up, you would have your breakfast, you would then go out and do whatever you were told, but it was quite regimented during the day, so that could be that hard labour, it could be working the kitchen, if that was actually something that was looked upon as a good thing, because you had a lot more freedoms doing that. You were in the afternoon, you did more work after lunch, and then you were confined to your cells at night.
Were there ever times when they used confinement as a punishment?
Yeah, there is a solitary confinement cell there. Often, I believe that was used more for prisoners who had psychological problems. Not the best way to deal with them, but if they were playing up or being unruly, they could be just thrown in there, into that solitary confinement, or even in maximum security. If you've seen the large, heavy walled cells, they're one of the oldest parts of the buildings. Solitary confinement in those for whatever time the superintendent felt was needed. It would have been horrible.
Originally, gallows were constructed in the courtyard of the prison. However, in 1952, new gallows were constructed at one end of the infirmary, containing a pit dug into the ground, a trap door, simple brick walls on either side, holding a wooden beam, and a set of stairs connecting to the pit, allowing for bodies to be brought back up once death had been established. Prior to the executions, the condemned were held with the wire cages on the other side of the infirmary before being led to the gallows. There are 11 documented executions, however, it is theorized there are another 60 that didn't make it into the books. Most famous, the final executions were dedicated to two Czechoslovakian immigrants, Jerry Cocky, 21 years of age, and John Novotny, 19 years of age, after being convicted for the murder of taxi driver Mr. Grantham on April 12th for his new Plymouth sedan. Jared Archibald summarized, the gallows found in the infirmary was secretly installed with the purpose of lynching the two criminals believed that if they weren't hung, the town would hang them themselves. They were executed 8 a.m. on the 7th of August 1952, marking the final hangings in the Northern Territory. Prisoners were commonly sentenced to a number of strokes. These strokes referred to corporal punishment carried out with a cat o' nine tails. This method saw a prisoner tied to a post known as a triangle, masked and whipped mercilessly on a prisoner's bareback by a prison officer. The weapon consisted of 9 strands of twisted and knotted rope attached to a handle, and held the responsibility of lacerating the skin and inflicting the maximum amount of pain during use. The punishments had to be supervised by a medical officer, with the person inflicting the punishment being chosen by the jail superintendent, based on who would not be emotionally attached. The medical officer served the purpose of determining when a whipping was too brutal, and had the ability to stop and commute all the prisoner's strokes. It is believed the cat o' nine tails was used at Fannie Bay Gaol from 1882 until 1911 under the South Australian government, with its reign ending after the Commonwealth takeover in the Northern Territory, outlawing corporal punishment of prisoners as judicial sentencing. Today, the jail serves as a historical museum run by the Museum and Art Gallery of the Northern Territory, with the aim of informing the public to the rich history we have here in Darwin. Although it is now seen as a historical residue commonly overlooked by locals, it was once a source of punishment, torture, and rehabilitation for those incarcerated in the century-old jail. Thank you for watching.